Okay, so apparently TNA has not learned their lesson since the last time I did my video on TNA, and there have been a lot, and I mean a lot, of mistakes that TNA has made. A lot of them have, a lot of the mistakes are made from against all odds. Let's start from against all odds at first. You had Kurt Angle versus Jeff Jarrett, in which for some reason they had Jeff Jarrett win over Kurt Angle. I mean, why is that? It would have made a lot more sense for for Kurt Angle to win and for the feud to end. I mean, come on. I mean, this is just something that we do not want to see anymore. We're tired of seeing the whole Jeff Jarrett versus Kurt Angle type of feud, and you know, just all that type of stuff that's going on with that storyline. It shouldn't happen anymore. It should have ended right there. And the other thing that really ticks me off was the fact that they had Jeff Hardy regain the title over Mr. Anderson. And it's like, why? I mean, this guy is obviously going to face some kind of, you know, some kind of punishment from the courts. It's in North Carolina for his drug charges. I mean, he's already pled guilty. We already know that. And yet you have him regain the title anyways. And to top it all off, from last night's episode of TNA, at the end, you had the 3-3-11 promo, which was pretty much a copycat of the 221-11 promos that WWE has been doing to hype up the return of The Undertaker. Now you're hyping up the return of Sting in a very similar fashion. You're doing the promo pretty much the same as the 221-11 promo that WWE did. I mean, come on, come up with your own original promos. And from what I've read on the spoilers, it turns out that Sting comes back that night and wins the TNA Heavyweight Championship against Jeff Hardy. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, having Sting win the title off of Jeff Hardy the night he returns, I mean, come on. I mean, Sting should have retired after his match at Bound for Glory 2009, after he lost against AJ Styles. I mean, TNA does not know what they're doing with the main event. They do not know what they're doing with their promos. They do not know how to write good stories. I mean, and most importantly, they are not listening to the fans. That is the biggest mistake for any company to do, pro wrestling or not. You have to listen to the fans. Otherwise, you are not going to get good ratings. You are not going to generate a lot of revenue. I mean, it's like this. Okay, it's like this. Let me give you an example of how important it is to listen to the fans. Okay, I'm an NFL fan. This past season with the Philadelphia Eagles, there were two quarterbacks. There was Michael Vick and there was Kevin Kolb. Michael Vick is clearly the better quarterback of the two. And yet the head coach Andy Reid said at the beginning of the season, Kevin Kolb is our starter. And the fans were constantly saying, we don't want Kolb as the starter, we want Michael Vick as the starter. And it turns out in the season opening game against the Green Bay Packers, Kevin Kolb suffered a concussion and had to sit out for a few weeks, in which Michael Vick was forced to be the starter. Michael Vick showed why he deserved to be the starter. And when Kevin Kolb was about to get off the injured list, Andy Reid said, Kevin Kolb is still our starter. But the fans were constantly hounding Michael Vick. I mean, they were constantly hounding Andy Reid to have Michael Vick be the starter. Eventually, Michael Vick finally said, all right, Michael Vick is our starter. And guess what happened as a result? The Philadelphia Eagles ended up winning their division and making it to the playoffs. If Kevin Kolb were the starter for the Eagles for the whole season, I guarantee you that the Eagles would not have made it to the playoffs, let alone win the division. And, I mean, Kevin Kolb, he cannot start for a lot of football teams. There are only a few football teams that Kevin Kolb can start for in the NFL. And the Philadelphia Eagles certainly is not one of those teams. And that's exactly what would happen with TNA if they would listen to the fans as to who should be at the main event, as to what storylines should happen, as to what superstars or wrestlers they should push, as to what wrestlers they should bring in. I guarantee you TNA would be a much better show. I mean, bringing back these old guys who are way past their prime, who can't wrestle anymore, that is not helping your product. Okay, you have got to start listening to the fans. You have got to start bringing in guys who are not known to the professional wrestling world, to the mainstream professional wrestling world, that is. Okay, you've got, I mean, you have like I said in my last video concerning TNA, I mean, there are many markets you can explore as to finding new talent. It's not limited to the United States. I mean, you have markets in Canada, Mexico, Japan, a few in Europe. There are many markets you can explore to finding new talents, and yet you are not exploring those markets. It is not good booking. It is not good business practice to ignore the fans. Okay, you are starting to do the same things that WCW is doing when WCW was starting to go under in 2000 and 2001. Do not make those same mistakes. You have got to start listening to the fans, because if you do not listen to the fans, your company is going down the drain fast. Okay, I guarantee you that it's going to get to the point where if you continue to copy WWE, if you continue to ignore the fans, if you continue to shove wrestlers down our throats that we do not want shoved down our throats, if you continue to withhold pushes that certain stars deserve, your company is going bankrupt. Your company is going to go under, it's going to go out of business, and WWE is going to be pretty much the only mainstream professional wrestling promotion out there. I mean, it's like this. You have to start listening to the fans. I've said it a whole bunch of times in this video so far, and I've said it in my previous video. As to you fans who are listening to this video, post this video on Dixie Carter's, Hulk Hogan's, Eric Bischoff's Twitters. Post this wherever you can. I want to make sure that TNA hears this, understands this, and applies this to booking future shows. And let me put it to this, and let me say this to you, Dixie Carter, Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, and Vince Russo. Ignoring this video, ignoring the fans' criticism, deleting their comments on your Twitters is not going to make all of this go away. If anything, it's going to intensify it tenfold. Okay? The time has come where you have to start listening to the fans. If you do not listen to the fans, then I have no problem seeing you suffer for all of this. Okay, and don't give me the BS that I don't know what's good for professional wrestling. I have watched professional wrestling for a very long time, for most of my life, as a matter of fact. So I know exactly what is good for professional wrestling. I have seen it long enough to know what is good, what is not, and what causes a professional wrestling company to fail. So don't blow me off, okay? I know exactly what professional wrestling needs. A lot of my friends know exactly what professional wrestling needs. So do yourselves a favor. If you want TNA to live beyond 2011, start listening to the fans. They know what will help TNA. They know what is needed to help TNA compete with World Wrestling Entertainment. Because if you continue to blow us off, if you continue to ignore the fans, if you continue to ignore the solution to fixing TNA, then TNA is no longer going to stand for total nonstop action. TNA is going to stand for They're Not Awesome. And that's exactly what you are. Not awesome.